Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Biz Dev Podcast, the podcast about developing your business. I am David, your host, and I'm joined today for the first time. This is a live in-person recording. We are in a little podcast studio. It's not ours. I do not own Star Wars here. But we're trying to tell Taylor's a friend of mine who also happens to be a business owner, and he has agreed to be a guinea pig on our first in-person kind of show. And so we're still learning, so I'm sure this is going to be magical. Thank you for being here.
One big fat outtake.
Yes, fair. And I've already apologized to my editors because this is going to go swimming. I have no doubt.
What could possibly go?
What could possibly go wrong? How are you?
I am well.
You're well.
Yeah, a lot of balls juggled. December used to not seem like a thing. As a kid, I got 4 kids. As a kid, it was like sprint to Christmas. That's all you really think.
That's it. That was the exciting time of the year.
Thanksgiving, a couple weeks of school, Christmas. And then something changes when you become a grown-up. And you don't really understand what all your parents were doing behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. I try to explain that. I use the analogy of camping. It's not an analogy. It's true. When we take our kids camping, they think it's this great time. Like, hey, what if we only went camping for one day?
Right.
Like, it's this easy breezy thing.
Yeah. Pop up.
And boom. And they go. And boy, they have no idea. It's like the swan. They don't see the legs kicking.
Yeah.
And my wife, this is way too much information. My wife was always wanted an RV.
Yeah, okay.
But she's now realizing as an adult that her memories, the fond memories she has of growing up, her parents are big RVers. She has that childlike, it just all was easy and fun. And she would go and they would sleep and they'd be in different places. Never seeing her mom cooking and cleaning constantly. And I think Christmas is a lot like that because our kids get gifts and they're magical and they love it. And they don't realize the stress it took for the last 6-8 weeks to get to that moment.
And I don't know if technology has caused that problem to get worse or better. Because it's like, we just put it in a cart, just keep building, and then click and buy, and we're done. Back in the day, it was like, run to the mall, run to that mall, run to the Greensboro.
To me, Amazon has changed Christmas completely. I love shopping on Amazon because I can spread it out. We'll add stuff to the cart and we'll buy them in pieces. So it's not this massive thing. We can spread it out. It's not, as I say that, I don't get stressed very often. I'm just a relatively low-key guy. And my wife, though, insists upon being involved. Like, I did for years. So I did all, no one, my kids don't even know this. I did all of the Christmas shopping.
Right.
For years and years because she would get anxious. I was like, girl, I got this. Yeah. We had lists. Everyone sends us lists. Yeah. And I was just like, bam, done. Yeah. She's like, I want to be involved. Yeah. Okay. So now we have to do it where she doesn't freak out. Yeah. And we still get it done and all that fun stuff. So now we have dates, which is actually lovely. We have dates where we go, but it's all, shopping is now at Starbucks and Amazon.
Yeah.
So
get this. I got now idealized snow falling.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, it's cold. Bundle up. But you're like, you get the panic look, and the phone's dying, and the people are. No,
I am convinced that almost all of the famous Christmas songs that everyone knows. One, I find it interesting. They were mostly written by Jewish people, which I find so fascinating. Like White Christmas. I'm dreaming of I'll Be Home for Christmas. Yeah. All written by Jewish people, which I find just so funny. Yeah. But I believe they were all talking about New York.
Yeah. For sure.
I don't, and except for ones that talk about there's not going to be snow because they're in LA. But it's just the dream Americans have of Christmas is New York City.
Yeah.
It's white and it's beautiful.
No one's ever done it.
And no one, when you live anywhere else, I grew up in Dallas and Christmas was cold, but there was no snow on the ground. Yeah. There was just everything was dead. It was great.
Yeah.
All right. The reason I wanted you on here, I think you're a great, besides we're friends and you got to deal with this insanity. You run a business different than anyone else we've had on the show in that you are involved in a family business. Yeah. I talk about C12 and our business group pretty often on the podcast. And one of the things that differentiates me and my company versus almost everyone, not everyone, but almost everyone in C12 is the fact that I don't know what 6 months from now looks like. When most of C12 have family-run businesses that's been around for 50 plus years, so the idea that the company's going to fail is completely foreign because it's always, in your case, your grandfather started your business. First off, I should say, because no one knows what you do, you run Witherspoon Rose Culture, which does fancy rose gardens and maintains them. It's a safe bet. I have one. It's lovely. You call it leggy because my rose is 47 feet tall, and actually one is. The rest of them are sleeping. But anyway, so you do that, and you guys have been doing that since when?
1951.
1951. So you have never known, because you're not that old, you've never known a world that business didn't exist.
Yeah.
What is that like?
I would say take it for granted for sure. But I think the other side of the coin, like you were getting at, it's you don't worry about, oh man, are we going to make it next year?
Yeah.
My grandfather never had any aspirations for this. And I didn't learn this until 2 or 3 years ago. The things that just come out in random conversations with my dad, it's like, oh, this is the house that your grandparents started the business. It's like, we've driven past this house every day for 20 years. So just now we find out that's where the business
I know a lot of the family business, especially the older ones.
Yeah.
The original idea was completely different. I sold lawnmowers out the back of my truck, and now it's this massive thing. What was the original idea?
I think this was his original idea, but the business, he was partners with a guy who did tree work, so he'd get up and cut out limbs and do all that kind of stuff. And they also had about 10 or 15 rose gardens that they cared for. So again, like you're getting, it never started from 0 rose garden care to now 2,700 customers. It was a handful, but the main thing was doing that tree service. The guy who, I guess, founded that company, hired my grandfather. He fell out of a tree and died.
Oh,
and so then my grandfather kind of talked with his wife and sorted out how to transition that. And he said, I don't want to be up in the trees.
especially after that, yeah.
Thank you. That was a big relief. It would have been a big relief if I'd been a part of that decision. But
When
yeah,
you're almost as tall as a tree, it really wouldn't have been a problem.
but for some reason I'm scared of heights.
That's ironic. How
I would
do you
love to do a
stand?
study on people who were tall, people who were short, and the fear of heights.
How do you stand up? Because you're...
I'm a brave man.
He's sitting right now. You don't know this, but he's 6'8".
Yeah.
I'm 5'6". Whenever we stand next to each other, because we've known each other now for almost 8 years.
Yeah, probably so, yeah.
Every time we go to lunch, of us walking in together,
Arnold and Danny DeVito.
it's not Bar. Arnold's still not as tall as you are.
Yeah.
So it's not. I think Danny DeVito's 5'3", so he's almost my height. But you are 6 inches taller than. So it's worse than twins. It's worse than twins. Anyway.
Yeah, so he started the company at that point just to focus on roses and a handful of customers at that time. And he was like, yeah, just paying the bills and making money. And then my dad married into the business. My mom got married in 78.
Because it was your mother's father's.
My mother's father's company. So from that point, he'd been doing it for a while, from 51 to 78. And I think he just was like, yeah, I mean, I've done what I wanted to do and I'm ready to stop doing work, play golf more.
Yeah.
And so my parents officially bought it in the 80s from what I understand. And I think at that point, my dad was like, it's fun. I love the customers. Mm-hmm. It's always been how we got the energy that's driven the business is the love for the customers.
One of the things we talk about a lot with entrepreneurs, startups, newer companies is what we call the slog, which is the time of when you start your company to the time anyone cares, which can be anywhere from months to years. But your company has been around for so long. Is that even a thing, or are you saying each city is a slog?
I think I think it's each city. One that has been a really long journey for us is Asheville. There was a lady that was doing roses up in Asheville. She called us, said she's done, don't want to be a part of this anymore. I'd be happy to sell you the customer. So we're like, great. And she's, I'll stay on and I'll help you out. And I think once we gave her the check, she was just like, see ya, which is fine. I mean, that was her goal anyway. But it's a dense town. There's plenty of money. There's plenty of golf courses. Like our target clientele is retirement age, had some kind of a life change, like empty nesters, retirement, those kind of situations, sold the business. Near a golf course and near water. Asheville checks every box. Garden friendly. Yeah, everything there is Asheville. But for whatever reason, it's just no energy. I don't know if it's because people are coming in or whatever. We were going there taking care of Biltmore. We'd get up 4 o'clock in the morning to get there and get out of there before the people came. We're been coined the phrase garden ghost, where we just you don't even know we're there, but you can tell that we've come, that kind of stuff. And yeah, there's just a lot of hard work put into grow in an area that just seems to like
There's too many hippies.
Maybe that's what it is. I love everyone in Asheville.
Dude, I love Asheville. If you've never been, one, you should go. But Asheville is a town that is, it's like Austin in Texas. Yeah. It's different than everywhere else. It's unique, and it is its own place, and it's full of hippies, which is awesome. Like the best restaurants, the best music. It's a fun, great town, but it is very different than anywhere else in North Carolina.
But Richmond, we started that area later, and we've grown bigger. I think maybe about the same time. I think we're at 70 or so customers in Richmond, and it's a long ways away. We have nothing between here and there, just Richmond, and just getting that pocket of community. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe folks in in Asheville it's just different. But yeah, the slog is getting it from 3 to 5 customers to making that trip worthwhile. It takes some time. So you just lose it when you're driving. The guys don't love it because they're in the truck riding. Like, for example, we've got a few customers at Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Have you ever been out there? No. Another pretty town, pretty area. You drive all the way out there, twisty back roads, 1-lane, 2-lane roads, all that stuff. Do your job for 25, 30 minutes. Get back in the truck, drive again. And so you're just...
how is that cost effective?
The hope is that it becomes cost effective.
So you're losing money now.
Yeah, lost leading. Yeah,
but you're hoping that guy has neighbors and we'll start talking about it.
Yeah.
Do you do anything special when you arrive? I got one customer, I got a beachhead as it were.
Yeah.
Do you do anything to make it win it? And how many do you need? 5, 10, 50? What?
The typical, so it depends on the size of the client. So how many plants you have is how much you're going to pay. If you have 7 bushes, 20 bushes, something like that, it's going to be a struggle. But like this customer, they're ultimate customers. So they subscribe to all of our services. They've got a nice sized garden. It's fantastic. It's in a good golfing community on the water. Hey, well, we checked 3 boxes at one time. This is you would think this is a unicorn, but it's also the vacation area.
So do you go and do, like, whenever someone's coming to clean the windows for our neighbor down the street?
Yeah.
I'll get a flyer saying, hey, we're coming into your area. Do you want to clean your windows? And we're like, no, but
yeah.
Do you guys do that kind of thing? Is that a growth strategy for you?
I think so. I think that's where we are self-limiting. So out of that just respect for the neighborhoods that we serve. I'll give you a little backstory. So when we would drive home from work, we lived 3 or 4 miles away from the office. We drive the same back road every time. My dad driving down the road. Every car we passed, he waved to every single car. He didn't know any of these people. But the same kind of thing translates when you're in the neighborhood. We tell the guys, like, wave to the neighbors that you're passing. Everybody's a neighbor to my dad. That's just the way he looks at life.
That's a nice way.
And so, in that same sense, you're in these neighborhoods, no soliciting sign on the door, no soliciting sign when you drive in.
Yeah.
Everybody's, some of them are high-profile neighborhoods. Governor's Club's got everybody from Michael Jordan to Mark Jacobson. It's everybody in there. And it's not everybody wants people. Nothing much peeking in the windows, but you run the risk of looking like a sightseer in a 10,000 square foot home neighborhood, that kind of place. And we try to just keep our head down and just grind and hope that our reputation will precede us. I would say that's the growth strategy. So we leave money on the table and not being aggressive. I would say that would be the answer to your question. It's the difference if you convert it to a tech term.
You'll get there.
It's like the difference between going to the site and you getting smashed with a pop-up immediately when you get on the site. Sure. I can't even describe, I don't even know if I want to see the site, but I get, coupon, save 25.
Oh my God.
I'm gone. That would be the hanging door hangers on everybody's house, sticking signs in the front yard. We're more of like we're here, browse our site, enjoy it, look at our neighbor, look at the garden from across the backyard, ask the neighbor what's going on, to show up at the Christmas party, ask about what's happening. We're a slow play. Being that we've been around for as long as we have been, it gives me personally the confidence. Okay, let's not be aggressive. Let's not rush into any mass marketing schemes or anything like that.
So the next obvious question of being in a family business is, what's it like being in a family business? Like drama, not specifics, and that's fine. But like I would imagine, like my wife works with us, and that's lovely.
Yeah.
But I don't have family members. And when my son did work for me, I purposefully put multiple layers between me and him because I thought that would get weird.
Yeah.
So you can't avoid family. Your dad, now he's not, but for a long time, he was your boss. Yeah. Your sister works for the company. Your mom wasn't involved somehow in the company. You can't avoid it. Now, you're not as bad as some where it's like cousins and it's insane. Yeah. But how does that dynamic work? Are you able to, say, get in a fight at the office and then go home and have Thanksgiving? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So when my youngest sister came into the business, I guess we'll reset a little bit. This is all I ever wanted to do. So like day one, my school bus would ride past the office and we were just looking out the window like, and I'm ready to be out. I'm ready to be over there doing all that stuff. I love it. It's in my blood. My younger sister was headed towards kind of kinesiology, physical trainer, that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of hoops you got to go through. And I feel like she lost the love for that in the meantime. And so she came to me one time and was like, yeah, I'd like to come work. What do you think? And I told her at that point, we sat in my office, I remember clear as day, I was like, you're going to see your dad at the absolute worst. Yeah, there's no way to avoid it.
No more hero worship, right?
Yeah, all that bubble has been burst. You're going to see him act like an absolute idiot. You're going to hear people, when he does something great, tell you that he is the dumbest person on the planet, the most idiotic human being. You're going to do stuff that you're going to see me do stupid stuff. We're going to disagree about things. If you can't overcome that, to your point, because we still got to have the rest of things going on. If that's going to be a roadblock, I would don't even take another step forward. This is and that's fine.
So being upfront about
yeah. I have another sister who worked for us for a little while, and I think that was what got her. Is she was just like, I can't keep having my boss and my dad as the same human being for everything in life. So I feel like it has something to do with the personality, the person's ability to compartmentalize.
Yeah,
it's the only thing I can rationalize. Right now, 3 of my 4 kids work with us, and to your point, I try to set them up with layers in between, and for the most part, that's easy to do and no problem. However, in a sense, growing your kids, training, and it's instilling it and it's demonstrating. It's like pulling the curtain back. It's showing them that the job is more than 9 to 5, more than a paycheck, more than an end to a means to an end, getting money, getting paid, that kind of stuff. If you don't show them that side of it, then all it is, dad coming home stressed, or dad on the phone fussing at somebody, or somebody beating dad up over something he didn't do what he said he was going to. All that stuff. You got to give them that glimpse into the bigger picture. So I really wanted them to be around. So my oldest right now, she's in school. She's thinking of possibly doing accounting work and all this kind of stuff. She's majoring in business. This past summer, I was like, I just want you to sit in there with Denise. So she's sitting right behind her. I had a bookkeeper, an accountant. She's been there for 20 years, whatever. And that isn't a position she aspired to. I just plopped her in there and said, I really want you to get some exposure here and just see what you think about it. Because in my mind, I am starting to think, what's going to be next? How's this going to go next? And I would hate to get to the point where, whether by choice or by tragedy, the business is being transitioned and nobody knows enough about it to care about it. There's a balancing act of instilling, not forcing, but encouraging or at least exposing your family to the company that I think is, like with your son, you brought him in, that at least gave him a look behind the curtain where it's, you're not a logo. I know dad loves coffee, but he doesn't just go to coffee shops for money. Like that isn't his job. I think that's a big thing, but it's real. The struggle is real. There's not a trip that we go on or a holiday or a vacation or any of that kind of stuff that me and my parents or my wife or my kids or whatever, we're not thinking roses or customers or whatever. And they're at the age where they still love it. My dad used to drive us. We'd go to Greensboro. That's where he grew up. We'd drive there to see his parents. And all on the way, let's just ride by. I'm going to take a little detour. We'd ride one little loop around this little neighborhood before we got to my grandparents' house so we could look at the gardens. This guy. Yeah, I do the same thing. You know, I used to hate it. I'm sitting in the car with him, and I'm just like, this is the worst. I don't care. I don't want to see these customers. And now it's just like that pride of these people. They love us. They love what we do. Look what we did out there. Look at how you roast garden. It's so amazing. And I'm hoping the kids catch that same bug.
No. It was one of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. My kids have zero interest in what I do. In my family, except my wife, who obviously is in the business and knows about it, but generally speaking, no one has a clue what I do.
Yeah.
And so all I do, I'm in software. Yeah. I build websites, which is the worst. Like that'll make me cringe. Yeah. But that's what most people think that I do. Yeah. And I don't correct them. It's not worth it. But it is funny to me. My son got a little glimpse, but still even that, he was our editor for the podcast. So he had to hear me talk every week. I'm tired of your voice. Yeah. But okay, so let's transition. You see where I'm going?
Yes.
To transition. So you bought the business, and this is such a loaded thing because it can be so fraught, and there's a million ways to do it. In your case, like some people we know in C12, their dad just gave them the business. Yeah. Here you go. Other people bought it from their families, and I think that's pretty standard. Correct me if I'm wrong, because dad needs to retire, right? And dad worked really hard, or mom, whoever's owning the business, worked really hard for their careers. I find there's two ways. Either they want to stay and get a salary until they die. Yeah. That's one way, and ideally I think that's not the greatest. Or they want to see some sort of benefit for all that hard work. Give me a big check.
Yeah.
And purchasing a business, I've learned through C12 and watching you go through it, is such an interesting thing because it's the only purchase that you personally don't have to buy. The company buys itself. Generally speaking, we know examples of people who literally wrote a check out of their personal account, but most people, when they buy a business, and I had no idea of this until just a couple of years ago, the company absorbs that debt and pays it off over time rather than you writing a personal check. Now, I don't know exactly the specifics to you, but that's like the only purchase I can think of. I can't go buy a car and someone else goes, I got it.
Yeah. I guess anything that you're going to invest in, you're going to want to have enough return on investment that it does pay for itself. So
Fair.
To your car analogy, if you're buying a car that's not going to be used for anything, you would find that to be a really bad purchase. So I'm sure you buy more laptops than most people.
Fair.
They don't pay for themselves. However, if you don't have a computer of some sort,
I'm a total lapse.
you're really not going to. Yeah. So from that side of it, I think that when you have that, okay, I want this to be my future, I think that you gotta really weigh all the options. What else could I do to make money, period?
Yeah.
Is this something that I want to invest in because I want to maintain that or own it for a long period of time? Same kind of thing with a car. Like, most people aren't going to just go buy a car and 3 weeks later, I really did wish I bought a truck. It does happen. People probably buy businesses and then realize pretty soon afterwards that they're done with it. But I think that the idea of stability is a big value. And that would be for the outgoing member as well as the incoming member. Mm-hmm. So I think that one of the things that's important for a business through transition is to have a long-term desire for success. And I think that's probably the biggest driving factor. Like, I think if my parents didn't care about what we did, then their response would be either just shut. Everybody's making, as a business owner, you're making enough money to pay your bills.
Sure.
Everybody would love to come to the point in life where they're making money and not having to work. That's just not a biblical reality. I don't think that's ethical to an extent. But yeah, I think that you've got to have a transition like you're describing to move the future, the generational stuff. But yeah, having that like concern that it's going to survive is pretty important. And I think my parents they valued that part of it. Instead of it's like, oh yeah, let's sell it to John Deere Landscaping. Just somebody who's just going to smear it into the ground, consume it, completely rip out the heart, stick in, mow and blow, and turn it into run-of-the-mill landscaping company. There are national brands who just look for that kind of stuff to happen.
Sure.
One of the other markets I've seen seems like it happens a lot. People set out to be mom and pop or just do it yourself, whatever you want to call it. Like, I do HVAC. I'm going to come to your house, I'm going to do HVAC. I'm really good at it. I'm like, where am I on? I'm going to be the HVAC guy. And then he gets pretty good, maybe has 6 or 8 employees, and then here comes big HVAC.
Yeah, big guy.
And consumes them up and just rebrands them and takes the soul out of them. And now they're, I don't want to name any other brands out there. But somebody who's just churning.
I've heard private equity PE companies are really into buying like dentist offices. Mm-hmm. What in the world? And what they'll do is they'll buy most of them in an area. Mm-hmm. And that's probably, if you're in any large enough town, a lot of times the dentists and that kind of service that you don't have a choice, you have to go to. Yep. They're owned by one company, and they do that so that they own it, and then they raise the prices slowly because they can. Yep. And so a lot of the dentists are actually secretly owned, and that's true for almost anything. This is just nothing about nothing. But I learned in the grocery store, there are the vast majority of everything, cereals, just think of any. There's only 9 companies. Okay. That run literally almost everything in the grocery store. Only 9. Every other brand, everything is just another thing of Unilever or whatever, or P&G.
Family owned.
Yeah, family owned, whatever. Johnson. There's literally 9 companies, and that's 90% of the grocery store, which is crazy. Anyway, is there a burden you feel? I don't feel a burden to pass this to my kids because I'm the first. Yeah. My kids don't seem interested. If they are, lovely, we can have those conversations. But do you feel, because you're 3rd generation now, do you feel a burden that you have to keep this going in such a way that it's ready for your kids, that you have to pass it down?
I think it's a really good question, but honestly, I think it's more about the potential and the customers. You've had a rose garden for what, 4 years now?
2.
Okay. This past year, all my life I've had a rose garden. I watched my dad do this, something similar to this. He would cut roses anytime we went somebody's house for the first time. Cut a little vase of roses. It might be a solo cup. Boom, nothing fancy. We did a grocery Instacart kind of thing. And we don't usually do that. It's not our MO. We like to go to the store and kind of shop around ourselves. We did one of those at time. Everything was just scheduled in types. Here comes the lady. It's 8 o'clock at night. She brings her stuff. And every time we order something, I'm always like, I forgot to cut roses. This time we remembered. Because
The roses have to look good.
I'm gonna tell
for
you.
the card.
I'm gonna tell you. Here's how it goes. You cut the roses, put about 4 or 5 stems in the cup. You carry it out there, and when they hand you the bag, you hand them the roses. Boom, magic happened at this point. We cut them before they got there. They texted, "Hey, we're on our way." I was like, "Buddy, go grab some, cut the roses." Bam. She full meltdown in the street, and I was like, "What's?" I'm standing at the door line. What's going on? Good things don't happen to me. I can't. She had her hands up. She's trying backing away.
Wow.
And we're like, "No, this is
That's
for
a
you."
visceral
I was
reaction.
like, "This is for you." She's like, "Y'all gonna make me cry." And we're like, "What are you talking about?" And she's just, this has been one of those days. And oh my gosh, she's like, "When I tell you nothing good happens to me, nothing good. This right here, you made my life right here." And I'm like, "We were going to throw them away." You know what I mean? Like, sure, because it's just plants. I mean, on the
They don't live
surface,
forever.
nobody cuts their grass, collects the clippings, dries it, mounts it on their wall.
If you gave up the Instacart lady, you give him a pile of grass. I don't think
I want to give you some fruits on my
we worked really hard. Have some grass.
I'm sure there's one on the internet. I'm sure somebody out there does. But
I want to know you. Please email me.
Please email me.
me.
But so that reaction, and like I said, I've seen it happen before in my life. It just reminds me that there are people out there who some small gesture like this, I mean, it would just boom, just totally change their lives. Maybe just for a short moment, but still.
Yeah.
Like, that is our mission. I'm very passionate about that. This isn't just anecdotal. If you do this, good things will happen. I don't believe the karma side of it, but we've had some customers over the years. Every time I come out there, I'm like, here we go. She's about to just, and why is this leaf yellow? Why do I have some?
I see a bug.
What? Yeah. Why do I have army ants? Man, nobody has army ants. That doesn't happen in North Carolina. We go back and check. Yeah, actually, we had sent them to the entomologist. They are army ants. No one in North Carolina knows what to do with this. We've been learning how to do it, treat them. But it's like every possible problem you can have. She had. Mm-hmm. Or her husband goes to the hospital, has some heart issues. She was like, I ran into her. Wasn't supposed to be there, but perfect time, perfect place. She's like, come here. I was like, oh boy, here we go. She opens up the fridge in the garage, which, as most of you, the garage fridge is reserved for alcohol. Boom. She opens the door, and it's full of roses. Oh, wow. She's like, all I've had time to do is just cut stems and throw them in my garage, and I just text my friend, just run in there and grab some roses. Just run in there and grab some. So she's like, all the friends in my church, all the friends in the neighborhood are just coming by, and she's like, I am just overwhelmed. And I'm like, you haven't been home except to just cut them and throw them in the vase and stick them in your garage, but you've got more blooms than you can even shake a stick at. So there's just something about when you just let go and just lean back and just look at what's happening. I mean, you can really appreciate that miracle of these flowers. I mean, it is passionate. There is so much that happens with this. And so to see a customer get to do that, I'll live off of that story for years. It's been years since her and I had that interaction, but it just gets me so excited. And the lady, the Instacart lady, she texted me, I remember it was on election night. Nice. And she texts back, red heart, blue heart. And it was just like,
Yeah, she was going either way.
But it was just like so valuable to her. And so here we are in North Carolina. We got Virginia. We got a little bit of South Carolina. But the company could be anywhere. You know what you're doing, it could be anywhere. So yeah, I look at it like I bear the burden of reaching that next batch of people who've never thought of, what do you mean a rose garden at your house? Like, you've got knockouts, and it's like, dude, you don't even know. We're not even on the iceberg, so much just a tip.
I will tell you, so I have a small rose garden, courtesy of you, and my in-laws live with us, and she loves, one of the reasons we got is she loves roses, and she grew up with them. In her mind, roses were knockouts. The knockouts are the roses that literally you've seen everywhere except in grocery stores. And then those are Lincolns, right? The red.
Well, there's Flores Grow in greenhouse. They have varieties, but
there's 5 kinds of roses that you've ever seen, and she gets the biggest kick out of. She trims the roses. Now I pay you guys to trim them, but she'll go out there specifically and grab them, and we have a little cupful, and that reminds her of her childhood, and she loves that. But our roses are all weird colors with purpose. We have 17 plants, and I think we have 3 duplicates. Mm-hmm. So they're all is just a crazy wild thing of color.
Typical. And I would imagine too.
I had no idea. Not to pimp out your stuff, but I had no idea roses did that. Yeah. And so my son's like, do we have like exotic fancy roses? And I'm like, just because they've been around forever, it's not like they're special to us.
Right.
But you can't just go to Lowe's or Publix or wherever you go and find these roses. Right. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Wrapping up. So you're now thinking, you're a young guy. I'm not, this is not imminent. Yeah. But what does transition look like? And I'm not holding you to it, and your kids can't hold it if they hear this. Do you plan on selling it? Do you plan on giving it? Let's just say, I'm not saying it's going to be messy. Let's say one kid has definitely stepped in and they're going to be it just like you were.
Yeah.
Do you want to follow your footsteps of your dad? Do you think, I'm not saying to rank him, but how do you see transition eventually for you?
Yeah. Personally, I feel like we always think we know it better than the previous people.
Fair, yeah.
And we always do exactly what's done to us.
We're perfect.
And I think it's unintentional. I think we even cloak it with, I've got a great idea. And what do you know? It's exactly how you did Tooth Fairy when you were a kid, or whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
It is interesting to watch my 4 kids talk about it because they are already ranking such and such. They're the boy, or such and such, well, they're the oldest. And it's like, y'all should probably talk. And it's already presuppositions made. What I would like is just to see people, my kids, have some kind of drive and want it. And I can't imagine, this is the thing, because you and there's other folks that we've been in C12 with who have had experiences where they say, my kids they want nothing to do with the company.
Yeah.
And I just can't wrap my brain around it. I don't know if it's because we're unique, although I don't think we are. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think it comes down to your company doesn't require a specific skill set. You could just love flowers and you could find something to do. And be like I don't know your father, but what I understand of him is that dude is all roses all the time. He's like one of the world's most authorities on the flower. That ain't you. You are a business guy at heart.
Yeah.
And yet, so 2 very different people, very different personalities, very different skill sets. Both of you were able to find a good place and run this business.
Yeah.
My business, for instance, requires a certain skill set.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't do that skill set, like my kids were great at marketing. You're not going to run my company. You might work for the company.
Right.
But running it would be very hard.
Yeah. And I think that is the question, is what will anyone aspire to? And I want to make sure, no matter what, the next generation, I'm leaving it in good hands because of that obligation to the customer, generational customers. It is interesting because certain businesses, I believe doctors are in this situation. I know lawyers are. You can't own a law firm unless you're a lawyer.
Yeah, engineers, yeah.
It seems odd to me because in the sense of liability, because we've got to have all of our licenses and all that kind of stuff. But just because you can get a license doesn't mean you have any idea how to run a business.
Sure.
Just because you know how to run a business doesn't mean you have any idea how to grow roses. And so what you're saying, like, it's a balancing act. And I wouldn't want somebody who's just a plant nerd to run the company, but I also wouldn't want somebody who's just a numbers guy to run the company. So I think at this point, I love the stage that we're in, where everybody's just excited about it, that they see it as a gift. Man, it is just, when you see that rose come across, and I got girls that are prom age, and it's still funny to watch. So they all went to get ready at one of their friends' houses, and so my daughter carried a big vase of fresh cut roses. Boom, set them on the table. And some other moms had brought stuff from the grocery store and all this. They snatched up our roses like that. Because they have a fragrance, because they have color. You're saying they're exotic, they're different. Yeah. As long as that is still happening, I'm excited. You know what I mean? That's the goal. Is I just want to see everybody enjoying where we're at now. There's still a lot of time to figure that stuff out. You're asking a very direct question. You probably want to direct it.
No, it's fine.
But I think that I hope that I'm building value that will be worth something to somebody.
Hopefully your kids.
Yeah, that would always be my priority, is to just see that go. They say that the third generation is always the one that sells the company. And a lot of times I find myself being but not me.
Yeah.
And so, kind of the chip on your shoulder kind of thing. I think that there would be a level of stewardship that I would be relinquishing if I let it go to a PE or venture capitalist or something like that. I just can't see it going outside of a private environment like this. So I don't know.
All right, last question. So we asked a question to end every podcast, but I'm going to switch it a little bit for you. Normally I ask for advice for a new business owner, but I think you're in a unique position. If someone is running their family business or wants to run their family business, what 3 pieces of advice would you give to that person?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. I think first, you've got to balance working on and working in the business. So I'm making an assumption that you've already worked your way up from the ground level. It is easy once you've gotten established in a management lifestyle to not hear the voice of the customers, not feel the pressure of the boots on the ground. Get yourself back in the front line. One of the things that we're doing right now in the business is our management team is like trying to get out, trying to talk to customers. Our ops guy today is out in the field, driving around, making visits, just being there. That presence is extremely valuable. Staying connected to the customers while you work, because I think the longer you're in a family business, the more insulated you can feel. Oh, it's always going, oh yeah, it's great, I don't have to do anything. But you know, keeping that like connection with the customer is super valuable. I think that anything that you can do to keep the passion going for yourself, because again, my entire life, more years than most people have worked anywhere, has been involved in this one thing. So you got to make sure that you're switching things up enough that you're not just stuck in a rut. So that's what I'm saying. Like if you're in the field most of the time, find some other people in the back office, looking at numbers. If you're a back office person, get out in the field. Let's see. Outside of that, 3 things of what I would recommend to somebody who is wanting to pass or to
Take over.
I think learning it from the inside out. I've had some friends who recommend like the kid's got to go work somewhere else and get promoted there. I'm a proponent of don't waste time somewhere else. You don't know what's going to happen. The proverbial bust can happen. The diagnosis could happen, and the leader is checking out. You want to make sure you're not wasting any time learning anybody else's bad habits or issues or bad management skills. I know you can learn some good things from being in another company, but I think just as much as you can gather and glean and learn as fast as possible is big. So I say just jump in as soon as you can. As soon as you feel like you got that bug, go ahead and explore the business. Figure out where you can work. Other than that, I think having like maybe like my parents did for me, they gave me a little bit of a choose your own adventure kind of opportunity where I got to explore some things without it being a really long-term environment. They gave me Director of Corporate Development title, and I had a lot of influence and I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. So I got to play, but they still had a whole lot of control and kept beating big mistakes from happening. I think it really helped me with the financial side. It's all this stuff that I learned conceptually in college, and I got to actually sit in my office and just come up with a new way of looking at this route, profitability or stuff like that. And I think it's helped in the long run to just sniff around and find stuff that you really are interested in, and that way you can build a reputation or a concept around that. So.
Nice. So if anyone wanted to learn about Witherspoon or you in particular, where would they go?
Yeah, witherspoonrose.com is our website. Instagram is similar and all that kind of stuff. We have 2 offices, one in Durham and one in Charlotte. We do classes and all that kind of stuff as well. So if you want to be involved with us face to face, that's a good way to do it, is come to our classes. We are definitely interested in engaging people in real life. So yeah, digital is there, but one of the requests we had just recently was, I'd love to see more pictures of your flowers on the website. It's like, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but seeing it up close, like what you described, the colors are magical, everything's different. And that's what we like. So come to walk through our gardens. Both of our shops have got a big garden that you can walk through and just explore. And our teams just love exposing people to roses. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for joining on this hodgepodge new kind of way of doing it. And thank you everybody for joining us. And we'll be back next week.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Christy Pronto, Content Marketing Director here at Big Pixel. Thank you for listening to this episode of the BizDev Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email, hello@thebigpixel.net.